All right, so get ready to dive into the world of numerology, specifically the energy of the number 9. You sent over a ton of articles on this, so clearly this is something you're pretty curious about. And honestly, I am too. Let's see what makes this single-digit number so special, right, Dawn?
Yeah, it's a really interesting journey we're about to go on, that's for sure. We're going to be unpacking not just personality traits that are associated with the number 9, but also how this number might have an influence on things like career choices, relationships, even lucky
Okay,
colors.
wait. Lucky colors. We have to
Yeah.
get to that. That's like a whole other deep dive waiting to happen, don't you think? But okay, first things first, I get it. Numerology, it can seem a little mystical.
Yeah.
So, can you just ground us a bit here? For those of us who might be new to this, what's the basic idea?
Yeah, totally. Basically, numerology is based on this idea that numbers hold vibrational energy, and that these energies, they can offer insights into ourselves and also into the world that's around us, in this case, the number 9. And a core concept here is that each number is linked to a celestial body, right? And for 9, that happens to be Mars.
Mars. Okay.
Hmm.
See, now that gets my attention. So we're talking about the planet of action, ambition, even like a little bit of that warrior energy, right?
Yeah.
Is that what we're seeing in people who like resonate with this number?
It's definitely in the mix, but there's a twist.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Yeah, so while the sources definitely highlight things like courage, a pioneering spirit, those classic Mars kind of traits, they also paint this picture of the number 9 as a true humanitarian, like think compassionate, supportive, that friend who's always fighting for the underdog.
Hold on. So which is it? Are we talking charging into battle or offering a helping hand? Because that just feels like kind of a wide range, even for numerology.
Right. And that's what I think makes this deep dive so interesting, right? Because Mars is also all about drive. But for number 9, it seems like it's less about personal gain and more about making a difference. You know what I mean? It's like that Martian energy, it kind of gets channeled into fighting for causes, uplifting others.
Okay, so less about conquering the world and more about making the world a better place. I think I can see that. They're using that Martian fire to light the way, not burn everything down. Now, when we look at the personality deep dive, I feel like these articles really paint like this vivid picture of a number 9, almost like a magazine profile, you know? And honestly, they sound like someone I'd want to be friends with. Giving, empathetic, always up for lending a hand.
Absolutely, yeah. And that totally lines up with what the sources describe. But like any strength, it can become a weakness if it's not balanced.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. Always giving, giving, giving. You could end up completely drained.
Right.
What else do these sources say about potential pitfalls?
One thing that really jumped out at me was this tendency to hold on to things, whether it's past hurts, maybe some outdated beliefs, or even like that stack of books you've been meaning to donate for months.
Okay, that's interesting, especially because 9 is often associated with completion, with things coming like full circle. You'd think they'd be all about letting go and moving on.
Right. And they are, in a way. But think of it like this: completion doesn't always equal letting go entirely. Sometimes it's about seeing things through to the very end, tying up loose ends, which might actually mean holding on a bit longer than necessary.
So it's less about like clinging to the past and more about honoring it, integrating those experiences into their present life, almost like they're like afraid to let go of any part of themselves, even the messy bits.
Yeah.
I know a few people like that, not saying any names.
And that, I think, is something we can all relate to, whether or not we, like, fully buy into numerology. It makes you wonder, when we hold on too tightly to things, are we really honoring the experience? Or are we, like, actually holding ourselves back?
Whoa, that got deep fast, but
Yeah.
such a good point. Okay, so we got these number 9s, driven by compassion, maybe holding on a little too tight sometimes. But what about their career paths? With that whole Mars connection, I'm picturing something high energy, maybe a bit unconventional.
You're on the right track. The sources mentioned careers like being in the military, athletics, fields where, action and courage are super important. But it's not just limited to that. We also see things like technology, healing, even creative pursuits.
Okay, now that's kind of a mixed bag. What's the common thread there? What drives a 9 to those very different fields?
It might come down to how they choose to express that core desire to make a difference. Like a career in healing that allows for a direct impact on like other people's well-being, even in, say, tech or entrepreneurship. It's about creating something new, something that like pushes boundaries and improves the world.
So it's less about the what and more about the why. It's not the job title. It's about finding a path that lets them live out their values. I actually think there's a lesson in there for all of us, even for not, like numerology buffs.
Exactly. I think this deep dive, it can be a lens for self-reflection no matter what your number is. It's about asking yourself, like, what are your core drives and how are those reflected in your own career choices?
I love that. Always a good time to check in with ourselves, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so we've done personalities, careers, but I think it's time to address the elephant, or should I say the heart, in the room. Love. Spill the numerological tea. Do the numbers hold the key to romantic success?
Oh, I wish it were that easy, right? Just look at your partner's numerology chart and boom, you've got it all figured out. Unfortunately, it's not quite that simple. Relationships are, well, they're messy, it's a dance, this complex kind of interplay of different energies and all that. But I do think that looking at the core traits of a nine, it can give us like some clues about what they might be looking for in a partner?
Okay, so based on what we've talked about so far, what are we thinking? They need someone who can, like, keep up with their giving nature. Because I feel like that could get kind of exhausting for the other person, especially if they're not wired the same way.
Yeah, and the sources actually point to a few key things when it comes to that. So first, remember how we were talking about nines being drawn to completion, to like tying up loose ends and all that?
Right, like it's super important to them.
Exactly. Well, that can actually show up in their relationships too. They might be drawn to partners who bring like a sense of stability, of grounding, someone who helps them feel complete.
Yeah, that totally tracks. They're always giving so much to others. It makes sense that they need someone who can provide that, like, solid base for them, a place where they can just come home to and, like, recharge.
Exactly. Now, the sources also mention that nines can sometimes struggle with setting boundaries, like really putting their own needs
Oh,
first.
yeah, I can see that.
So a partner who's naturally a bit more assertive, who can kind of gently encourage those boundaries, that might be a really good balance for them.
Okay, so it's less about finding another nine and more about finding someone who, like, complements their personality, who brings something different to the table, someone who maybe even challenges them a little, but in a healthy way, of course.
You got it.
Uh-huh.
It's about finding that dynamic balance, that push and pull that keeps things interesting and allows for growth. And this goes both ways, of course. The ideal partner for a nine, they're also going to appreciate, like, the nine's depth, their compassion, their willingness to go the extra mile for the people they care about.
Yeah, it just sounds like open communication is, like, key here. Being able to talk about those needs, those tendencies, without judgment.
100%. And honestly, that's true for any relationship. But especially, I think, when you're dealing with a number that feels things so deeply. Now, before we move on from this whole love thing, I have to ask about something that I saw in one of these articles. It mentioned nines being old souls. What's the deal with that?
Ooh, yes, that whole old soul thing. It always sounds so mysterious and intriguing,
Mhm.
right? So what does that even mean, like, in the context of numerology? Are we talking past lives, cosmic wisdom? Like, give me the details.
Well, okay, think back to what we've been talking about with nines. Their depth, their empathy, their ability to, like, see the bigger picture.
Right, they've got that whole wise sage vibe going on.
Exactly. It's almost like they've lived through a lot, learned a lot, even if it's just on a subconscious level.
So it's not necessarily about, like, remembering specific past lives, but more about having this, like, innate understanding of the human experience.
Yeah.
Like, they've seen it all before, and they're here to help the rest of us, navigate the ups and downs of life.
Exactly. And this also ties into their spiritual side, I think. A lot of nines are really drawn to exploring, like, different spiritual practices, philosophies, anything that helps them make sense of the world and their place in it.
It's like they're on this constant quest for knowledge, for deeper meaning,
Yeah,
always searching for those universal truths.
that's a great way to put it. And that thirst for knowledge, it can actually show up in their career choices too. Remember how we talked about them being drawn to things like technology, healing, even the arts?
Right, right.
These are all areas where innovation, creativity, a desire to kind of push boundaries are really valued.
It's like they're, like, wired to leave their mark on the world, to make a lasting impact, whether that's through, like, a groundbreaking invention or a work of art that really moves people's souls, or even just by being that compassionate friend who always seems to know the right thing to say.
Exactly. And that kind of brings us back to that core Martian energy we were talking about at the beginning, right? It's about channeling that drive, that passion into something that benefits not just themselves, but also the world around them.
Okay, I'm getting chills over here. This is making me think about, like, my own life,
Yeah.
my own why, But before I spiral into an existential crisis, we have to talk about lucky colors.
Okay.
Come on, this is the fun part. All right, lay it on me. What colors are we talking about here? What's lucky for a number 9?
Get ready for some bold hues. The sources say red and pink are especially lucky for those guided by the number 9.
Okay, I see it. Red, yeah, that fiery energy makes sense with that whole Mars connection we talked about. But pink, it's not exactly what I pictured. A little softer than I expected for these warriors of compassion.
It's all about balance, right? We've talked about how 9s have that duality.
Right, right.
Strength and compassion, action and introspection, it's all there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Red brings that fiery energy, that drive to make a difference, while pink, it's like the heart-centered side, the love and empathy.
Okay, I get it. Two sides of the same coin, right?
Hey,
But are we really supposed to believe that just by, like, wearing these colors, we're going to tap into some magical number 9 luck?
it's not quite as simple as that, no. It's more about the intention.
Okay, so explain it to me.
Yeah. Think of these colors as like visual reminders. They represent those qualities you want to bring into your life.
So when I see red, I should think courage, go-getter energy, and pink, it's like a little nudge to lead with my heart.
Exactly. Little visual cues to help you tap into those aspects of yourself.
I love it. It's like having your own personal cheer squad made of, like, throw pillows and wall art. Okay, but on a more serious note, I think what's really stood out to me about this whole deep dive is that numerology, it's not about putting people into boxes.
Right. It's not like a label.
Yeah, it's not, you're a 9, this is your destiny, end of story. It's more about,
It's a tool,
yeah,
a starting point.
exactly. It's a new way of looking at yourself.
Seeing your strengths, your challenges.
And honestly, even if you're listening to this and thinking, numbers, that's not really my thing. Just hearing these different perspectives, it makes you think, right? It makes you think about your own life, your own motivations.
Exactly. What resonates, what feels true for you.
Yes.
That's what matters.
It's like we always say,
Yeah.
it's all about connecting those dots. And who knows, maybe this deep dive will inspire you to learn more about numerology, see what else is out there. But even if you just walk away with, like, a couple of aha moments, a little bit more self-awareness, I'd call that a win, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
And on that note, I guess that's a wrap on this numerology adventure.
For now.
Until next time, keep those questions coming, and we'll keep diving deep into all these fascinating topics. See you next time.